16 years old, something happened to me that began to change my life. So I was actually arrested and tortured by the Islamic Sharia law. And then they threw us into a room, like a small room with 50 people. They're choking, no food. One boiled egg in the morning, one boiled egg at night. If you stay longer, 65 seconds, they kick the door, they beat you up.
Hai, ini gua Daniel, tetangga kamu. Di sini gua akan ngobrol dengan tetangga gua tentang perjalanan hidup mereka dari kacamata spiritual di saat mereka mengalami situasi tidak pasti dan kekhawatiran, sampai bisa kembali bangkit menjadi orang yang lebih kuat dari sebelumnya. It's gonna be very exclusive and inspiring. Hai, kembali lagi di Daniel, tetangga kamu bersama gue Daniel Mananta. Dan saat ini gue lagi ada di Yerusalem, Israel. Dan masih ada di studio TBN Israel. Dan gue juga lagi bersama dengan Ramin Parsa, seorang tetangga kita dari Iran. Nah, by the way, kalau misalnya kalian pengen dengerin kita secara audio aja, langsung check out our podcast. Kita udah ada di semua digital platform podcast. Langsung aja klik search Daniel tetangga kamu. Dan again, karena hari ini kita ngobrol dalam bahasa Inggris, lebih baik kalau misalnya lu dengerin ini dalam podcast, lebih baik nonton versi YouTube-nya karena udah ada subtitlenya di situ. So langsung aja kita kembali lagi ke Ramin. So now I want to know, why are you here? What happened? Because that was I guess we were just talking about life in Iran at that time, and or even until today, sorry, not just at a time. So how can you be here?
So basically what happened was, I grew up in this environment. I was born in 1985 when there was a war with Iraq, two Muslim countries fighting each other. So many people died. And I still remember, the lights would go off and bombings and stuff. So then when I was, and as a child, I really loved God. I wanted to, serve Him, to know Him. But they told us, Allah is God and Islam is the way, and we have to do it. And I did to the best of my ability. Yeah. I still go to mosque with my mother, with my family, and at Ramadan, all of us would wake up in the morning and fast and begin our fast, and then also going to the shrines and imams and so forth. And then when I was 16 years old, something happened to me that began to change my life. So I was actually arrested and tortured by the Islamic Sharia law.
What happened?
So I was going to a wedding, my cousin's wedding, and on the way to the wedding, some relatives gave me a ride. I was 16. I wasn't driving. I didn't have a car. I don't drink, and they had some alcohol. They drank some alcohol, like not really drunk, just maybe a little bit to go to a wedding, and it's illegal based on Islamic Sharia law.
How did they find alcohol then? I guess just like
on the ground.
Underground. Yeah.
So then so they had, and I was in the car. They gave me a ride, and then in Iran, the Sharia law police sometimes they just close up the streets and they check the cars. For example, if you're with a woman, they say, "Who's this woman?" And it has to be your mom, your sister, or your wife. Oh. And if you say, "Oh, it's my girlfriend," you go to jail, both of you, and then you have to bring your parents. And they fine you.
Friends?
Yes.
What about friends?
Friends,
not girlfriends, friends.
Friends, girlfriends, doesn't matter. Because based on Islamic Sharia law, she's not lawful to you to be with. They call it mahram.
Even just next to each other.
Yes, it's haram. It's like, that's why the schools are separate, girls and boys. The schools are separate and so forth. Even in the stadiums, like when there's a game, football or basketball or volleyball, the girls are not allowed to go to the stadium. Only men.
Wow.
So that's why. And when women do competition in the sports, they have to wear hijab. It's mandatory. So I was going to this wedding, and then the Sharia law police basically stopped the car, and they close up the street unexpectedly. Like they do it whenever they want, wherever they want. And they open the door and they smell the alcohol. So they didn't ask who drank, who didn't, just put all of us into a bus. And they took us to a confinement. And again, I was 16. I did not drink. Even to this day, I don't like alcohol. And so they took us to this confinement. They took all our clothes off, bare naked. And they start putting cold water on us. And they start beating us with the thick electric cables to punish us. And they start beating. This is before we go to court, before anything. And they start.
You were, they didn't say that you were guilty.
Exactly.
They just start beating you.
They punish you, yeah. Because they feel they're superior morally and in every aspect. And that's why they can do anything they want to you. Because you broke the Islamic law. You deserve any kind of treatment. And that's why when I was, this happened to me, and then they had us sit up and sit down naked, and they're laughing at us, making fun of us, and then they throw 50 of us. And they arrested so many people. The bus that they put us in, it got filled like in 15 minutes because they arrested so many people who violated the Islamic law. And they put us in this bus, and then they took us to this confinement. Like somebody was arrested in a party, somebody was with a girl, somebody was... And they took us to this confinement. And
that wedding was not joyful at all, obviously.
And then they threw us into a room, like a small room with 50 people. They're choking. No food. One boiled egg in the morning, one boiled egg at night. One bottle of water, everybody would drink from it. Restroom, one time in the morning, one time at night. 60 seconds to go to restroom. If you stay longer, 65 seconds, they kick the door, they beat you up. And and every morning at 5 in the morning, they come and do roll calling. When the guard change and they read your name. If you're sleepy and don't answer, they hit you in your head with a baton. So I saw with my own eyes how they're treating human beings. And so I was devastated. And so I was there for 4 or 5 days. My family actually found connections. They bribed them to let us go. Sometimes they take you to your neighborhood where people know you, and they tie you to a bed, and they whip you and with lashes to make you an example to others. As I said, when I was going to school, I saw people being executed. I saw people being beaten in public to make him an example. If you do the same thing, that's what's going to happen to you. But actually, it had the opposite effect because they devalue human life. And so what happened was, then I was there for 5 days. Then I had to go to court with shackles on my feet and my hands, 16-year-old boy. And then a mullah sitting there. And based on Islamic laws, they began to write the fine we have to pay. And even to this day, they counted based on camels. So they said, okay, you have to pay like six camels. So you have to calculate how much is a camel.
Is the camel worth in that
and then
time?
You pay that. And then you have to, then they let you go. And so we paid the fine. I came out. But that was the beginning of a big change in my life. I began to question, what kind of law is this? What kind of justice is this? What kind of, religion is this? Because always they told us, Islam is about justice and all these things and, fighting with injustice and oppression. But I saw with my own eyes, I experienced oppression and injustice. So then I began to question that. And my mother said, I said, what kind of religion is this? What kind of, this is Islamic law. And my mom said, no, Islam is good. These people, the mullahs, the regime makes it look bad.
Wow.
And I said, okay, fair enough. I saw all those things and I said, wow, how could God be like this? How could God be, like this kind of treatments of human? So then I began to doubt. I began to read and study more, and I began to doubt more and more. Eventually, I lost my faith in Islam. So now, as a child, when I was growing up, I loved God and I was going to mosque and pray and fast. And now I'm nothing. I don't know who I am. I don't know what I believe. I don't believe in anything. And I began to question the deeper meanings of life. Like, why do we exist? Who is God who made this whole world? And if there's a God, who is he? If there's no God, then what am I doing in this world? And so from 16, when that happened to me, until 19, in these 3 years, many things happened. My father passed away. I lost my school. All my hope was gone. I no longer believe in religion. And I began to question, what am I doing in this world? What is the purpose? Why do we live 80, 90 years? We work hard. We go to school. We get degrees. We work more. And then you die at the end. And if death is the end, why not now? Why you have to suffer so much? Go to prison, get beaten, torture. And then you die at the end. And so I was crying out to God, God, if you're real, who are you? If you're not real, then what am I doing in this world? Who made this world? Who made the moon and the star? And in Iran, I remember we used to sleep in the yard in summertime. We put like a mattress and we sleep. And I watched the stars. And I saw this beautiful, the stars and the Milky Way. And I saw this is all accident. If there's no God, then this is all accident. If there's a God, I want to know him. Who is God? Who is the creator who made me? And when I was 19, our power was out and I had a radio that worked with a battery. And I began to basically listened to this radio, turned on the radio, and then I moved the knob, and I came across a channel that was sharing a testimony of someone who was suicidal. And as he was going outside of town to commit suicide, he heard this music, this beautiful music, and he followed the music and he went to a church. And there he heard about Jesus and the gospel and Angel, and he became a Christian. His life changed. So that was my first introduction, because up to that point, they told me Jesus was one of the prophets in Islam. So now when I heard this, that was the first introduction. I didn't hear the gospel.
But the guy who shared the testimony, is he in Iran? He's
No.
Iranian?
Actually, it wasn't himself sharing it. Somebody was sharing about that guy.
Oh.
Like a radio host.
Oh.
And so that was my first introduction. And that radio was broadcasting from outside, because in Iran it's illegal.
Okay.
It's illegal to have a church. It's illegal to have Bible.
Yeah.
It's illegal to become a Christian based on Islamic Sharia law. If you convert from Islam to Christianity, it's punishable by death. They call you murtad, and murtad is punishable by death. So, anyways, so that was the first introduction. I didn't make anything of it, but I felt it was the beginning, a touch, a seed, if you would.
How could you receive the radio frequency? Was the host speaking in Iranian? Was the host speaking in English? Was it like satellite?
Yes.
Or
it was a Persian, and they were broadcasting from outside. I don't know how, but the government cannot stop the signals. They can do in certain areas, for example, in this region, in this area code, but they cannot do it in the whole country.
So I think, in Indonesia, we have this, what we call parabola.
Yeah.
Parabola is like the satellite thing where, where if you want to watch something from different countries, you go up to your roof and with the antenna, so it's very similar like that. Yeah.
And then
it's illegal though.
It's illegal.
Sometimes it's illegal.
Yeah. In Iran, it's illegal even to have a satellite dish. In fact, in the beginning of revolution, even cassette players, the cassettes, the tapes, and also the VHS players, they're all illegal.
Oh.
And now even internet, they limit internet, they censor, they block websites.
Yeah.
They don't want people to see. And so what happened was, then I began to, a few weeks later, after the radio incident, I, for first time on a satellite, because my brother had one, it's illegal, but my brother bought one, and they hide it on the roof, they camouflage it.
Right.
And for first time, I heard that Jesus is the Son of God. He died for me, and he rose from the dead. And in Islam, they told us, it's a kufr. It's like a blasphemy to say that he's the Son of God.
Yeah.
And so here I heard that he's the Son of God, and a Christian was talking about Jesus, that he loves me, and he died for me as a sacrifice, and he rose from the dead. And I said, no, that's a bunch of blowing. So I thought all religions are the same. I thought Christianity, Islam, Judaism, all of them are the same. They are nonsense. They are because of my experience with Islam. So I rejected that. But 1 week later, again, I heard as if God was pursuing me. And I heard again that Jesus loves me, and he died for me, and he rose from the dead. If I take a step of faith and I believe in him and allow him to come to my heart and confess him as my Savior, my Lord, he will save me. And at that time, I was very suicidal. I was broken. Life was meaningless. I was depressed. I didn't know what is the meaning of life. My father passed away. My school was... And at that moment, I had a very genuine conversation with Jesus. I said, Jesus, I do not know you. When I was a Muslim, they told me you're a prophet. You love children. Now they're telling me you are the Son of God. You died for me. You rose from the dead. I don't know who is telling the truth. I don't want to be deceived by religion again. But if it's true, if you are the Son of God, if you died for me, you rose from the dead, I don't know if it's true. If it's true, I ask you to come into my heart, be my Lord, be my Savior. And the moment I say that, a heat went through my hand. Something warm went through my hand, it went through all my body. I start shaking and trembling, and I start crying. I felt this love I had never felt before. I felt this joy. This peace. And I told you about the people who beat me and tortured me in the prison. I hated them. And I was going to take revenge one day. But the moment I became a believer, I began to forgive everybody. If anybody has hurt me in the past, I began to forgive everybody. I began to feel compassion for them. It was an instant change. It wasn't like through 12 classes of this and that. It was an instant change. I began to forgive, love. I felt this peace that I've never had before. I felt this joy, this love. Everything changed. It's like somebody lifted 500 or 500 kilo weight off my shoulders.
Yeah.
I felt light.
Wow.
And I began to speak in tongues. I don't know if you know.
What?
Yeah.
At that moment?
At that moment, yes. And so my mom saw me. She said, "What happened to you?" I said, "Why?" She said, "Your face is shining." Because before, when I was depressed and
when you want to have revenge on the people who beat you up.
So my face was shining. I was peaceful. I was joyful. I searched for 3 months. I went to all libraries, all the bookstores, all the shops.
There is no pastors or preachers who's guiding you through all this process.
So the only thing I saw is 4 Injil, and I was wondering why there's 4. I thought it's one book. The first 5 chapters made me cry.